It's official. Wayne Carini, the beloved face of chasing classic cars and America's most trusted vintage automobile expert, has finally broken his silence on the nuclear-level legal battles that nearly obliterated his reputation and empire. For decades, this man was untouchable, the gentleman of the collector car world who could spot a million-dollar classic from across a garage. But behind those gleaming showrooms and polished TV appearances, a devastating storm was brewing that would drag his name through courtroom battles, online forums, and whispered conversations among collectors worldwide. Nobody knew what to make of it when the first lawsuit dropped. A trusted icon suddenly accused of botched deals, fraudulent transactions, and leaving collectors high and dry. Was this the fall of a legend, or something far more sinister lurking beneath the surface of America's most prestigious car restoration empire? The silence has been deafening. Until now. At 73, Wayne Carini is ready to tell the explosive truth about the legal nightmare that nearly destroyed everything he built. This isn't just about vintage cars anymore. This is about trust, betrayal, and how even the most respected names in any industry can find themselves fighting for their very survival. Let's rewind a bit to understand how we got to this unprecedented moment in automotive history. Wayne Carini wasn't just some guy who liked old cars. He was the undisputed king of classic car restoration, a man whose word could make or break million-dollar deals. Sources close to the collector car world describe Wayne as someone who built his empire on three pillars: unshakable integrity, encyclopedic knowledge, and an almost supernatural ability to bring dead classics back to life. His hit TV series Chasing Classic Cars turned him into a household name, the trusted face that collectors worldwide look to for guidance. But here's what the glossy TV shows never told you. The collector car world is a high-stakes battlefield where fortunes are made and lost on handshakes, where a single authentication can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and where trust is the only currency that truly matters. Word on the street is that Wayne's troubles began with what seemed like a routine transaction. People familiar with the situation say it started innocently enough. A rare 1934 Pierce Arrow coupe, the kind of automotive holy grail that collectors would kill for. Nobody could have predicted that this single car would become the catalyst for a legal nightmare spanning nearly a decade. The story gets darker when you realize this wasn't just about one car or one deal gone wrong. Insiders claim that Wayne found himself caught in a web of fraudulent ownership documents, international collectors, and shady middlemen who had been operating in the shadows of the vintage car world for years. What makes this even more explosive is that Wayne wasn't the villain in this story, he was the victim. Sources say he acted in complete good faith, trusting documentation that looked legitimate, working with people who seemed credible. But in the collector car world, good intentions don't protect you from legal devastation. The ripple effects were immediate and brutal. Phone calls stopped coming in. Potential clients started asking uncomfortable questions. The man who had spent decades building an unshakable reputation suddenly found himself defending his integrity in courtrooms instead of restoring classics in his garage. And that was just the beginning. But here's where it gets even murkier. The Pierce Arrow case exposed a catastrophic vulnerability in the entire collector car ecosystem that nobody wanted to acknowledge. It's confirmed that in 2010, Australian collector Robert Richmond made an upfront payment of $98,000 for the Pierce Arrow through an acquaintance named Gary Dixon. Here's the nuclear part. Instead of delivering the car as agreed, Gary listed the vehicle under his own name, effectively stealing Richmond's money and leaving him without the prized automobile he'd paid for. Sources familiar with the case reveal that Gary had been operating this scheme for years, using fraudulent ownership documents to sell cars he didn't legally own. The most shocking part? The collector car community knew something was off, but nobody spoke up. Then came the devastating moment when Wayne entered the picture in 2017. Gary, now facing financial troubles, decided to sell the Pierce Arrow without informing Richmond. Wayne was contacted to appraise the vintage coupe, completely unaware of its troubled history. He valued it between $110,000 and $120,000 and eventually purchased it himself when it became available. What Wayne didn't realize, and this is where the story gets absolutely explosive, is that Gary had fraudulently acquired the ownership documents necessary to complete the sale. Legal documents later revealed that Wayne acted in complete good faith, trusting seemingly valid paperwork that had been masterfully forged. But that's not even the most shocking part. when Robert Richmond tracked down his car and discovered it had changed hands multiple times. His frustrations culminated in a nuclear-level lawsuit in 2018, naming Wayne Carini, F40 Motorsports, and other parties as defendants. Here's what really happened behind closed doors. Wayne found himself in the impossible position of being legally responsible for a car he'd purchased legitimately from a seller who had zero legal right to sell it. Insiders say Wayne was devastated when he realized he'd been used as a pawn in someone else's criminal scheme. The court filings reviewed by the Hartford Courant later concluded that Wayne had committed no wrongdoing whatsoever, but he was still required to assist in refunding payments to resolve the case. Translation: even when you're completely innocent, the legal system can still destroy your reputation and drain your bank account. If you're finding this story as mind-blowing as we are, do us a favor and hit that hype button right now. This investigation took months to piece together, and your support helps us bring you these explosive behind-the-scenes stories that the mainstream media won't touch. Seriously, hype this video. We're about to reveal something even more devastating. The Pierce Arrow nightmare was just the tip of the iceberg. Sources close to Wayne's inner circle reveal that while he was fighting that battle, another explosive controversy was quietly brewing that would shake the foundation of his business even further. Back in 2011, another devastating dispute involving Wayne's business, F40 Motorsports, surfaced concerning the sale of a $200,000-plus Lamborghini Gallardo. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. The Gallardo was advertised with a rare luxury luggage package reportedly valued at an eye-popping $88,000. But here's the nuclear part. When the Lamborghini was delivered, the buyer discovered that the promised luggage package was missing. People familiar with the situation say attempts to resolve the issue were met with inconsistent communication and lengthy delays that left the buyer feeling completely abandoned. What happened next will blow your mind. The frustrated buyer took to Lamborghini Talk, a popular automotive forum, detailing their explosive grievances with F40 Motorsports' handling of the situation. The post went viral within the collector car community, painting Wayne's business as untrustworthy and overwhelmed. Insiders claim that although the matter was eventually resolved out of court, with the luggage package and spare key delivered via FedEx, the damage was already done. Word on the street is that this drawn-out dispute revealed catastrophic cracks in the customer service practices of a business that had cultivated an image of prestige and trust. But that's not even the most devastating part. Sources say that in online forums, collectors began describing F40 Motorsports as trustworthy yet overwhelmed, prone to small but costly oversights. Translation: Wayne's reputation was being systematically destroyed by 1,000 small cuts. What makes this even more explosive is that major Hollywood names who would normally remain neutral began speaking with caution about Wayne's business practices. Studio executives whispered about how challenging F40 Motorsports had become to work with some joking that dealing with Wayne's team was like playing chess with a mirror. Nothing ever reflected back truthfully. The numbers don't lie. Sources familiar with the business reveal that Wayne's client base plummeted by over 30% during this period. Sponsors were backing away. Potential collaborators were ghosting. Wayne's once rising empire was becoming a warning sign in the collector car world. And through it all, Wayne remained mostly silent, trying to salvage what was left while the legal vultures circled overhead. This isn't just about Wayne Carini anymore. What we're witnessing is the complete exposure of a systemic problem that's been festering in the collector car world for decades. A world where millions can change hands based on a handshake and a promise, where trust isn't just important, it's literally everything. The fallout has been absolutely catastrophic for the entire industry. Sources close to major auction houses reveal that Wayne's legal battles have forced unprecedented changes in how vintage car transactions are handled. Documentation protocols that were once considered sufficient are now being completely overhauled. Here's what's really explosive. Insiders claim that Wayne's nightmare exposed dozens of other fraudulent schemes operating in the shadows of the collector car world. People familiar with the investigation say that Gary Dixon wasn't working alone, that there's an entire network of middlemen who have been systematically defrauding collectors for years. The ripple effects have gone global. Word on the street is that international collectors are now demanding DNA-level authentication for every transaction, triple verification of ownership documents, and insurance policies that would make your head spin. The days of gentlemen's agreements are officially over, but here's where it gets even more devastating. Sources say that Wayne's reputation crisis has triggered a complete loss of confidence in celebrity car experts across the board. Collectors who once trusted TV personalities are now demanding independent verification of everything, treating every recommendation with nuclear-level skepticism. The media coverage surrounding these legal battles has exposed the competitive and precarious nature of the collector car industry in ways that nobody wanted to acknowledge. As Auto Week noted, in collector car sales, trust is fragile and reputations are easily lost. What makes this a true industry earthquake is that Wayne wasn't some fly-by-night operator. He was the gold standard, the guy everyone looked up to. If someone with his reputation and experience could get caught up in this kind of legal nightmare, then nobody is safe. The psychological impact on collectors has been profound. People familiar with the community describe a climate of fear and suspicion that didn't exist before. Million-dollar deals that once happened over dinner now require teams of lawyers and months of due diligence. This has fundamentally changed how the collector car world operates, and the shockwaves are still being felt in auction houses, restoration shops, and private collections around the globe. Here's what's coming next, and it's going to be explosive. Sources close to Wayne reveal that he's not done fighting. At 73, he's preparing to release a tell-all documentary that will name names and expose the entire network of fraudsters who nearly destroyed his life's work. Word on the street is that Wayne has been quietly collecting evidence for years, building a case that could bring down some of the biggest names in the collector car world. People familiar with his legal team say he's got receipts, recordings, and documentation that will blow the lid off decades of industry corruption. But that's not even the most shocking part. Insiders claim that Wayne's story is just the beginning of a much larger investigation that could expose systematic fraud reaching into major auction houses, celebrity collections, and international crime syndicates. The silence from other industry players has been deafening, and that tells you everything you need to know. When the most respected names in any industry go quiet, it usually means they're all hiding something. This story is far from over. Wayne Carini's fight for his reputation has become a battle for the soul of the entire collector car world, and the explosive revelations are just getting started.